Aloha, my name is Matt DiGeronimo. I'm the Senior Managing Director at Floyd Mergers and Acquisitions. This video segment is directed to the for sale by owner people out there. It's not uncommon for us to interact with a business owner that is determined that they can sell their business on their own. And I understand that. And in most cases, that determination comes from a concern that hiring someone like Floyd takes too much money out of their pocket for a service that they could do their own. Right? So why would I pay someone to paint my office if I can do it myself? And in this particular case, what usually comes up in the dialogue is a discussion of, geez, you guys charge 10% of the transaction. I spent years building this business. I'm not willing to provide you 10% of the sales price for something that I don't think is all that challenging and I can do it myself. I obviously disagree with your sentiment, but I also recognize the challenge of me trying to communicate that to you because I have a vested interest in you changing your mind. So what I'm going to do here is my best to just speak open and honestly with you about why your thought process is not a healthy one. And again, I recognize that coming from me, this message may not be received well, but this is what we do day in and day out. So we have a lot of data points and a lot of history to pull from, and I'd like to share that with you. The very first thing to consider is, I know it's a little bit counterintuitive, but you, as the seller of a business, don't pay an intermediary like Floyd anything. Okay, you don't pay us anything. And I know that that's not intuitive, but it's true. The buyer of your business pays you and also pays us. So to think that 10% of the value of your business goes to the intermediary and that kind of creates a discomforting feeling, I get that. But that's not the way it rolls. I mean, so for example, let's say your business is a $500,000 business and you immediately think, geez, if I could get $500,000 for my business, why in the world would I hire an intermediary who's going to earn $50,000 if I could do it myself? There's some issues that we'll get to that relate to why that thought process is a little bit warped. But let's start with where the money comes from. If you're given an offer of $500,000 for your business, and you have an intermediary that's working for you, you immediately chop off 10%. So you'd have to be willing to accept a $450,000 offer. Whether you accept that or not is up to you, but that's a $450,000 offer for your business. So our job is to get you, the owner, what you want and what you need for the sale of your business. Our job is to put the most amount of money possible in your pocket. Our fee is earned or is paid by the buyer, who essentially ends up paying a premium because you have representation. The second part that rolls into why I often tell our prospective clients that our transaction fee is $0 is because I have yet to see an instance where a business sold through a professional doesn't reap at least 10% more than the business owner would have been able to get on their own. At least 10%. In fact, normally it's not even close. So I'll just give you an example of something that came across our office today. It's an individual who was looking to sell his business on his own, and he's marketing it out there. He's got a website dedicated to it, and he's asking $300,000 for his business. I know, because I have seen this enough times, that he'll never get $300,000 for his business, ever. In fact, I'm willing to go on record, and of course I won't say his or her name or business, but that individual will never sell their business, because selling a business is super, super challenging, very challenging. And the hardest part of it is dealing with all the emotions. So a business owner trying to sell their business on their own, in 99 out of 100 cases, and let's face it, you're not that 1 out of 100. It's not a healthy way to make business decisions. You're not the exception. You are the rule. And as a business owner, you are not going to be able to sell your business on your own. You may get an offer, but at the end of the day, if you turn the keys over to someone else and you handle the transaction your own, you will end up with a bargain basement price or a transaction that you end up paying for further down the road because it was administratively not handled correctly. Here's some other things to think about. Selling your business on your own makes it almost impossible to maintain the confidentiality of the sale. And what not most, but some business owners don't realize is that maintaining the confidentiality of the sale is one of the most important parts of the business sale. Launching a website and broadcasting to the world that your business is for sale, in most cases, is like stabbing your business in the face, like jumping off a cliff, only to be rescued by Superman, who brings you up even higher and then drops you. And that's from C.K. Lewis, by the way. Jokes aside, my point is, once confidentiality is breached, if you have any employees, they're starting to look for a new job. If you have any competitors, those competitors are now in hyena mode, and they're circling the camp and looking for any kind of meat that they can get a part of. And if you think it won't happen, I promise you it will, because I have been through this over and over and over again, unfortunately. And every time it's the same thing, and I try to tell people, look, I've seen this movie, I know how it ends. You have to protect the confidentiality of the sale, and when you try to sell your business on your own, that's almost impossible. The other thing that's really important here is that I would contend that if you're looking to sell your business on your own, you're probably downplaying sort of the complexity and heavy lifting of selling a business. And that's what we do day in and day out, so obviously I could potentially take offense to that, but I don't take it personally. But my point is, you are going to find out that even just the initial part of the sale, which really, finding the buyer composes a very small percentage of an actual successful business transaction, that will distract you from the most important thing that you can do during the business sale, which is run your business successfully. If, because you're trying to sell your business, your revenues go down, and they will go down, okay? Because you're not granted more hours in the day. You're still limited to 168 hours a week, and answering the calls and dealing with prospective buyers. And then if one of them starts to kick the tires and starts to make an offer and go through some sort of due diligence process with you, that will distract you from running your business. Your revenues will go down. And when you try to put that deal together between the two of you, and it falls apart, because it will, I promise you, now you're left with a business whose the confidentiality of the sale is out. Your clients know, your landlord knows, your employees know. That's damaged your business. Your revenues have gone down, and there's very high in the list of things that prospective buyers look at is not only the revenue, but the trend of the revenue. Now you put yourself in a hole on the trend of your revenue. The last thing that I'll mention is, and it's very, very hard to communicate this. All I can say is that I've observed it, over and over and over again, and even with the savviest business owners with the most illustrious backgrounds and careers mess this up, even after I tell them. But despite what other people may say, and despite what seems intuitive to you, the worst salesperson for your business is you. When I work with my clients, I do my best to protect them from communicating with the prospective buyer about anything other than big picture stuff. And as we get closer and closer, then that dialogue can grow a little bit more. However, I have seen where we think the deal's in the bag. We think we're just about one signature away from closing this transaction. And then the buyer and the seller get together and they have some drinks. The meeting went well. There was no specific objection, but the next thing we know, we get a call from the seller who says he's changed his mind. And what happens is, you as the buyer know so much about this business. It's almost written on your DNA at this point, that even though your intentions are to let this prospective buyer know all these good things about your business and all the things that he or she could do, and explaining this facet and that facet, time and time again, the business owner ends up overselling the business. And when you oversell and you talk about all the things that could be and all the different options for growth, and oh geez, if you're going to be able to do this and you could do this, and only if I was a little bit younger and had a little bit more energy I would do this. All that sounds great, but it spooks prospective buyers, and that is why at the end of the day the business sale is about handling emotions more than it is about handling the specifics of the business transaction. And you as the business owner, your emotions are the ones that we have to manage and handle the most. And we have to protect you from yourself. Okay, and lastly, but not leastly, is that you as the business owner have to maintain a positive and cordial and friendly relationship with the buyer. The only way to do that in a business sale is to have somebody in the middle that can be the bad guy. And I'm not implying any sort of underhanded tactics here, but my point is there are times in the business transaction where things come up that inevitably things come up where the buyer and the seller disagree. And if they're left to hash that out on their own, in most cases, even when a solution is arrived at, it creates bad blood between the buyer and the seller. And post-sale, the buyer needs to know that he or she still has the seller in their corner. And not just contractually in their corner, but emotionally in the corner. And if that if that relationship suffers any damage, it plants a seed of doubt in the buyer's mind about how much support they're going to get post-sale, which is usually one of their number one concerns. So having somebody in the middle to manage the emotions, to manage the communications, and to be the bad guy when required is not a trivial facet. And I lied earlier when I said lastly, because I do have one more thing. And I won't go into detail on it, but remember, I've talked a lot about emotions and some subtleties of the business transaction, but at the end of the day, the heavy lifting is in ensuring that the business transaction is handled correctly, administratively, and that the due diligence process, the financial review, and the turnover of the business is done with every T crossed and every I dotted. If you can get that, if you could score a 4.0 on the first time you've taken a test, or even the second time you've taken a test, well, congratulations, you're a better man than I. We have learned from our experiences over hundreds of business sales and that's why we get it exactly right every time. Thanks for your time, and I hope you appreciate the fact that I did my best to speak candidly to you, and I hope we can continue this dialogue and represent you in the successful sale of your business. Thanks.